8 summer Premier League transfers that certainly haven't gone to plan so far. The summer transfer window is a glorious entity. It's a bubble of optimism in which supporters are allowed to dream a dream, sheltered away from the inevitably gloomy reality of the months to come. Unlike in the January window, there's a sense of order, rather than panic. A warmth that few periods of the season can ever truly replicate. Anything and everything is suddenly technically possible. As the signings roll in, clubs and fans alike can begin planning for promotion pushes, cup finals and even the rise of their very own empire, though as we all know, things don't always go to plan, do they? It's been 5 months since the summer window slammed shut, and it's fair to say that a few bubbles of optimism have since been burst. With that in mind, here are 8 Premier League summer signings that haven't really worked out yet. Romelu Lukaku was signed as the final piece of Chelsea's puzzle, but a deadly mix of injuries, catching COVID-19, and declaring his undying love for Inter Milan has made the £98 million man look like a very expensive square peg in a round hole. The Belgian has bagged 10 goals so far this season, which isn't a poor return, but Thomas Tuchel would have been expecting more from the man who ripped Serie A defenses open for fun for 2 years. Lukaku has a reputation to mend and a philosophy to get on board with, but until that happens his move to Stamford Bridge will be seen as a failure. Which of these 8 signings do you think has the best chance of turning things around? Let us know in the comments section below. Jack Grealish will more than likely end the season with a Premier League winner's medal in his back pocket, but he's had something of a mixed start to his career at Manchester City thus far. England's newest heartthrob hasn't quite managed to take games by the scruff of the neck like he did at Aston Villa last season, but under Pep Guardiola's mentorship, it only feels like a matter of time. So far though, he's played little more than an ancillary role in City's near-spotless season, which isn't exactly what you'd expect from a man who cost £100 million. It's time for Jack to start paying it back. Jadon Sancho bucked the trend by braving a baptism of fire in the Bundesliga with Dortmund when he was just 17 years old, paving the way others like Jude Bellingham and Tammy Abraham to prove their worth abroad rather than rot on an overstuffed subs bench somewhere. A move back to the Premier League felt inevitable, though his near-immediate fall from grace certainly didn't. Sancho has struggled for consistency and form all season at Old Trafford and has looked a total shadow of his former self. Like Grealish, it feels like it's only a matter of time before it all starts to click, but confidence can be a killer, and Sancho's been in desperate need of some for months now. Unlike others on this list, Ben White hasn't had a disappointing season, it's just that he hasn't really looked anything like a £50 million centre-back, which is the very thing Arsenal bought. The former Brighton man was chosen to spearhead Mikel Arteta's revamped Gunners backline, but has been more Joel Matip than Virgil van Dijk. More Gary Cahill than John Terry. More Steve Bold than Tony Adams. Whether the fee Arsenal paid for him could have been spent a little more wisely is the only issue here. Other than that, White's been, well, fine. But is that enough? Tottenham haven't had the best of luck with right-backs since Kyle Walker left for Manchester City in 2017, and their curious purchase of Emerson Royal hasn't exactly bucked the trend. The 23-year-old, who was bought and then sold by Barcelona in the space of a few months over the summer, has looked poorly equipped at right wing-back, especially since wing-back fanatic Antonio Conte took over at the club. He's only managed to play so many games this season by virtue of being better than the similarly poor Matt Doherty, and following Conte's attempt to bring Adama Traore to North London last month, few would bet against Royal being given the old heave-ho at the end of the season. His debut was labelled one of the worst Premier League bows of all time, and the once universally lusted after Spaniard has looked terribly out of his depth in Thomas Tuchel's team this season. Impressive performance against Tottenham last month aside, Saul has delivered almost none of what his reputation promised for Chelsea. He's looked unconfident, lightweight and, sacrilege for a modern Spanish midfielder, poor in possession too. He's featured in just 6 games in the league so far, only 2 of which have been starts, and it's hard to imagine Chelsea fans missing him when his loan move ends in the summer. Everton hope they've picked up one of the bargains of the season after landing former West Brom and Newcastle United striker Salomon Rondon on a free transfer, but the Venezuelan's short stint on Merseyside has been utterly forgetful. He's scored just once in 16 matches and has totally failed to capitalize on Dominic Calvert-Lewin's injury troubles. Desperately lacking firepower up front, the Toffees have been dragged into a relegation scrap, and the chances of new manager Frank Lampard looking to Rondon for security over the coming weeks will be slim to nil. Billy Gilmour and Norwich City looked like a match made in heaven when the Chelsea youngster agreed a season-long loan deal there last summer. After being awarded man of the match in his Premier League, Champions League and international debuts, regular football seemed like the only thing that stood in the way of Gilmour and his chance at the very top. But despite being one of European football's most sought-after youngsters, Norwich have chosen to use him sparingly, much to the frustration of Chelsea fans and Gilmour himself, of course. It had the potential to be one of the most inspired loan deals of the summer, but quickly turned into an unmitigated disaster.